some people are celebrating this, and I'm thrilled for the families of the hostages who are coming home alive. We don't even know which ones are alive. We don't know what kind of condition they are in because they've endured the unthinkable for 467 days. There still remain others. And I must admit, looking at it, it makes me still so angry at Hamas, the United Nations, the college students who are protesting here, even Qatar, who gave a safe haven to Hamas as he celebrated and cheered on October 7th. So, you know, it just reignites my anger, which I should have had 467 days, but there have been days when I've concentrated on other stories, but this is just the worst. But your thought?
Well, it's a Sophie's choice, Greta. What can I tell you? You know, you have people who are going to be seeing their loved ones over the next few weeks, and you have people who don't even know if the second phase of the plan will happen or if they'll ever see their loved ones. There's also no guarantee when they talk about the 32 hostages, how many are alive and how many are dead. There's an estimation now that 23 out of the 32 are alive. But again, this cruel psychological warfare that we really don't know what's going to be happening within the next few days. And we really hope, or we pray, that Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization that started this whole thing, will actually keep to the deal. And let's not kid ourselves. The only reason they've reached a deal now is because they know that under Trump it's going to be a lot harder for them to manage whatever it is they want to continue managing in the Gaza Strip.
Hamas is just, they're evil, they're cruel. Anyone who supports them, anyone who has been giving any aid or comfort to them are equally as bad. And I remember speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu over a year ago, and I agree with him that, you know, you have to destroy all of Hamas because they're just going to regroup. But I certainly understand, just to get these hostages home, this few. I mean, Hamas won't even return them all. Won't even give them all of them up. I mean, it's just, there's just, you know, it's the idea of having a boot on your throat, having to deal with this horrible organization, and the world, and many in the world are just appeasers to them.
A lot of appeasers, a lot of people who've normalized what they've done, a lot of people who make an equivalency between innocent hostages, including a 2-year-old baby, a 6-month-old baby, and the prisoners with blood on their hands, 1,000 of them, that we have to give in order to take our civilians and bring them home. And people make equivalency. The hypocrisy of the world to normalize this terrorist organization. There are some media outlets, Greta, who won't even call them terrorists, like the BBC. And so it's disgraceful. And what's even more disgraceful is that we hear from Antony Blinken a week ago saying that it was Hamas who was intransigent, who didn't want the deal up until now. And the daylight between Israel and America is what made them be more intransigent. And who created the daylight, if not the Biden administration, pushing Israel not to go into Rafah, threatening us not to sell us the weapons we needed to finish the war. It was that daylight that occurred in this administration that made them intransigent.
You know, but even things like the U.S. has been very generous with UNRWA, which is the relief organization that has been for years providing supposedly aid to Gaza and the Palestinians, but instead it really has been going to the Hamas leaders so they could become billionaires. I mean, they didn't. As I always said, is that the head of Hamas became a billionaire, Hania, and he didn't invent the iPhone or do anything like that. He stole money. But the idea that U.S. taxpayers pays the UN, that UNRWA, and then UNRWA employees were giving support to the Hamas and holding some of the hostages hostage.
They're employed by the UN employs Hamas. The UN employs Hamas. A lot of these humanitarian aid organizations, so-called, employ Hamas. When Hamas have been starving their own people, when Hamas have been using their own babies as shields in this war, nobody says anything. Instead, we have the ICC and the ICJ, these kangaroo courts, blaming Israel for a war we didn't start, instead of the terrorist genocidal organization, which is funded by a terrorist genocidal country, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and Qatar, that have enabled this. Let's not make a mistake. The reason this is happening is because Qatar knows that they will be put under immense pressure by the Trump administration to do something about the hostages. They know that they've got 5 days left of grace. They know that, and this is why they're doing the deal today.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.